Thank you for coming to Comic Spot today. And here on Comic Spot, another great treat for you to get to know this funny comedian. I was going to call her a gal, but you know what? It doesn't matter if she's a gal or a guy. She's a funny lady and she's a comedian. That's what matters. And let me introduce her properly from the things she supplied to me. So you got to hear this. She says, I have always been interested in theater and comedy. I was influenced largely by British humor at a young age. My parents are from the UK. Monty Python was a staple in my house. I got very involved in community theater where I live in Sarasota, Florida. For several years, I was a box office manager at our community theater. I was also a professional dresser for our Professional Performing Arts Center. Worked with the union. I taught drama to kids in an after school program. I studied improv for over a year and took several stand up comedy workshops. I began doing stand up comedy about a year ago and have had several paid gigs. I hosted several shows too. Let's talk to her, Caroline Brown. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, how are you, Linda?
Wonderful. I love your bio. I could never memorize it, not at any age. I'm not going to lie. How's life in Florida?
Life is good. It's a little harder now these days, of course, but it's good. I love living here.
Yes. So, where in the map of Florida are you at? North, south, middle, east, west?
Okay, so I'm on the west coast of
Okay.
Florida, about an hour south of Tampa.
Okay. Cool. And the weather today is beautiful.
Beautiful and super hot like it always is in July.
And so, air conditioning costs a lot of money, right? Have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Um, so you took improv, so you can work with me as I go off on my little tangents about Florida. I lived in Florida in 1971. I lived in Fort Myers, and in 95 I lived in Vero Beach. So I
Okay.
think I think I know everything about Florida. That should be about it.
Yeah, I'd say at this point you're probably an expert on Florida.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
definitely. I know where Alligator Alley is. What else is there?
There really isn't anything else.
But you live up there where there's some really cool history. Down in the South area, it's all brand new construction, but up in Tampa and St. Petersburg, there's really old buildings and history.
Yeah, there is. I especially really love Tarpon Springs. I went there with a friend of mine not that long ago, and we learned all about the really amazing history of Tarpon Springs. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, never.
Yeah,
Eh,
it was amazing. They're known for their sea sponges, and it's
mhm.
primarily made up of Greek families. So they do a lot of deep sea diving for the sponges, and every restaurant's a Greek restaurant, and they also sell a lot of soap. So we had a super fun time there.
Wow. Now, is there any connection to deep sea diving and soap?
We delved deeply into trying to figure out the connection between the Greeks, the sponges, and the soaps. And all we could come up with was that the Greeks did used to like diving for the sponges. The soaps came along, I guess, as an afterthought to go along with the sponges.
That's, yeah, I get that. I get the connection. So let's talk about you growing up. So you were influenced in the United Kingdom, and the style of comedy is very different there. Monty Python was huge for Americans. Is so when did you find out you're funny, and to what degree is your comedy British, so to speak?
I think I found out I was funny when I moved around a lot as a child. I did live in the US, I lived in Canada, I lived in the UK, and I came back to the US. So I was always kind of like the new kid, and I think comedy was the thing that, you know, I used to get people to like me. Um, I do have a little bit of the British influence in my comedy. I can bring out some accents occasionally, but I think it was just really the early building blocks of my comedy, and I was at a really early age. I was able to understand some of their humor. Um, I did have to have some of the political humor explained to me, but yeah.
So you started going to improv and working around theater, and you were exposed to the arts, and then you became not attracted to it, but more committed to arts. And then at some point you were like, okay, I'll be a comic, whatever, I'll do comedy. But you had it way back, you've been observing it and loving it. So what was the catalyst that got you from being in a theater, strategic and integral to a theater, to, okay, I'll do stand up? What was that happened?
Well, actually, it's a really great question. I love this question. What happened was, like I said, I'd always known I was funny. People always told me, "Oh my God, Caroline, you're so funny, so funny." I had a friend about 10, 11 years ago. She got a birthday present from her husband to do a stand-up comedy workshop at McCurdy's Theater. And she said, I'm not doing this alone. I want you to do this with me. So I said, absolutely. Okay, I will do this. I will do it with you. And we can, and I absolutely loved it. I totally loved it. And that was a number of years ago, and I had really young children, and it wasn't the right time for me at that time. And then about 10 years later, I met up with a really old friend of mine, and she was doing stand up, and I said, I'm ready. Let's do this. And from May until March, we went at it like 3, 4, 5 open mics a week.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is such a cool story. So the original girl that you went to, lady that you went with to comedy the first time, is she still doing comedy?
No, she's not. As far as I know, she only did the one end of class performance that we had, and she didn't continue.
And how does she feel about you continuing?
I actually kind of have lost track of her over the few years. I'm sure that Stacy would be thrilled for me, though. She's a great girl, and I think if she has been following me on Facebook and she knows what I'm doing, I think she'd be beyond thrilled.
That's so cool. And you're getting several paid gigs now. How does that feel?
Well, before COVID, it felt amazing to be such a young comic and to be just starting out and to be paid. I wasn't paid a lot, but I was paid, and it was pretty much about the best high I think I've ever had. It was
Yes.
great.
So what's your style of comedy? You mentioned voices. So what's your comedy topics about, or what style? Is it observational or witty, or what drives your comedy, or what do people say is your comedy style?
Okay, so at this point, like I said, I've only been doing it for about a year, so I'm still trying to find my persona. But basically, I do a lot of self-deprecation about my weight. I do. I am a breast cancer survivor, so I do some
Wow.
breast cancer jokes, and I do some observational jokes and some anecdotal jokes. And just a small little tidbit of information. I did get started with a comic that you're going to be interviewing at some point. Her name is Ginger Kelly. That was the friend that I met up with. Am I allowed to say that? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Anything goes. I just don't want to hear anything political or religious.
Oh,
You can
no.
cuss, just don't say Jesus in a good way.
Okay. Well, so Ginger Kelly is a friend that I met up with just over a year ago, and she's the one that was doing comedy, and she kind of dragged me along and taught me everything that she'd known for the last month that she was doing it. And anyway, I've been doing a lot of breast cancer jokes. And at some point along this journey, she was diagnosed with breast cancer herself. And when she called me up to tell me that, the first thing I said to her was, listen, girl, if you steal any of my breast cancer jokes, I will kill you.
You wish you wouldn't have survived.
No, but she's doing
That's
great, and
funny.
I'm so happy for her, and I love her, and she's the best. So,
So, how long ago was that she went through that, or is she still going through it?
um, she went through that. It was about less than 6 months ago, but she's doing really, really well. She's over the hump. She's definitely into the recovery zone at this point. So I'm really proud of her. I'm really happy for her. I love her, and she's doing great.
I can't wait to interview her. I'm looking forward to that as well. So, what are your plans in doing comedy after? I know after the pandemic, I know we're shut down. Everybody reminds me. But when things, let's pretend today everything opened up. What are you going to get out there and do differently, better? How are you going to be a better comic because of the pandemic?
Okay, so this time that I haven't been doing any stand up, obviously because of the pandemic, I've been writing. I've also been reading several books on stand up that I found enormously helpful. Was a book I found called Mastering Stand Up, and just rewriting my jokes, rewriting them. And as soon as this is over, I'm going to hit as many open mics as I possibly can.
Wow, that's fabulous. So, do you the book that you read? Do you recall who the author was? Author was on mastering stand up.
Yeah, it's Steven Rosenfeld.
Okay, perfect, awesome. When you write a joke, do you start with a punchline? Do you start with a premise? Do you just think of a topic that's near and dear to your heart that you're tied to? What inspires you to write a joke in the first place? With me, for instance, just to give you a second to think, for me, I see something or I hear something, and it's usually a word, and then I have to build an entire joke around a word that came to me. I cannot stop until I come up with a joke about the stupid word. That's about it. So
Yeah,
it's
for me, I think I tend to look at everything in life in a sort of a comedic viewpoint. Everything to me is funny. I see humor in everything. And somebody will just say something, or something will happen, or there'll just be a string of words or something. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, there's a joke in there somewhere. Like, I'll give you a really good example. Today, one of my Facebook friends said, does anybody know about Epstein-Barr virus? I said, okay, wait a minute, there's a joke in there somewhere. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Barr, what is this? Like, it's a virus of people who are super rich doing terrible things, and somehow they end up dead in jail or something. On that, and it's kind of like just life, just things happen, funny little things, and suddenly there's a joke.
Yes. Sometimes I'll hear a phrase like Epstein Barr. Let's say that was it. It's not. Let's say pop can. And then something will come to me after pop can, you know, and then I've got a string of words that take you from one thought to I think like a Rolodex. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like what you were doing with the Epstein Barr. You had Epstein, then had Barr, and you could go talking about a tavern. You could talk about Bill Burr. You could talk about, it could go in many directions.
Yeah, exactly. I think comedians have a certain way of looking at the world, and to me, almost everything I see, everything I do is just, to me, it's funny. It's just a joke, you know?
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I have this thing that I want my epitaph on my grave to say, here lies Linda Marcus Smith. You already know that. But she, here lies Linda Marcus Smith. What? Forgot my own epitaph? What's this about? Hello, Alzheimer's. Go away. It's not even the right time for this.
At least you have one. I don't even have an epitaph, so way ahead.
Okay, I thought of it now. Thank you. Here lies Linda Marcus Smith. The only thing she ever cared about, I know it's long, the only thing she ever cared about was comedy, and everything else was the joke.
Ah, I love it.
Thank you.
Very clever. Yeah.
I don't see things normally. You don't either. That's the beauty of being a comedian. You know, we look at a light switch and we go, oh my gosh, what I could do with a light switch on stage. Give me 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We do have a certain way of looking at the world. And I don't know that other people get us a lot of times, but I just try to surround myself with people who accept and understand me and understand my humor.
Yes. So you've performed improv as well as comedy. And I'd like you to speak to how improv has helped you as a comedian. Have you noticed you've never been a comedian without improv, but you've seen other comedians with no improv background at mics or paid shows who may or may not have the same skill set as you, where you can navigate differently than they can. So, did you want to speak to that? Because a lot of comics don't think they ever have to take improv.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the two are connected. I love that and I had the best teacher. I was really blessed to have been taught by Will Laura, who's a well-known world-class improv teacher. And I studied under him for a year. With comedy, there are times I think where you just have to kind of shoot from the hip and go with the flow, and you do not know what's going to happen up there. I've done crowd work, and I think improv really helped with that. The skill set that you have from improv with going back and forth and working the crowd and hearing what they're saying and then repeating it so that everybody can hear it, and just being able to just literally fly by the seat of your pants. Improv really teaches you just to have all those synapses just firing so fast out of your brain. And when you've got that adrenaline rush on stage, that's all happening. Yeah.
So, do you recall a really wonderful time where you're so proud of yourself for handling something in the moment because of improv?
Yeah. One of the first times I performed stand up professionally, we were actually on a boat. We were on a sunset cruise, and it was the first time I was doing the show, and I was I was the first act. I was the opening act. And as we got started, we were pulling away from the dock, and I was just getting started with my set, and a huge gust of wind came up, and chairs are flying everywhere, and my hair's blowing, and the microphone was, I mean, it was like it was horrifyingly frightening. And just what came out of my mouth was, oh my God, this is like my worst nightmare come true. And I just started spewing out things. I don't even know what I said, but that was actually the funniest part of my whole set. So it worked out great.
You know, I think that when people in the audience can tell that you thought up something in the moment, it will be extra memorable to them.
That's very,
It feels
very
like a
true.
special gift that they got that no one else is going to get.
Right. Even if it's something that you build into your set every time, if it looks like something that you're just shooting off your hip, and they think, my gosh, they're able to just come up with that at the spur of the moment, when actually it's built into your set. It's true. That is pure comedy right there.
It is. And I know Robin Williams, the master of making, well, there's others way before him, but you know, for most of us, Robin's as far back as we go. And he made everything look like he was thinking it up in that moment.
He did. He was so good at that. And if you followed him around, that performance would have been the same every time. But the audience wouldn't have known that. They thought they were seeing something new that he had just done it right off the top of his head, and it was so planned out.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the brilliance is to have it so complicated and so unique and so complicated, but make it look like you're thinking it up in the moment is the art.
Yeah, and I think that is something that just takes years and years and years of practice to be able to do. I would love to be able to get to that point.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that thing that they say that you got famous overnight and it took 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you taught improv to children. How was that experience, Caroline?
I taught in an after school program, drama. It was actually called Drama Kids. I taught, it's an educational vehicle using drama. It was a great experience. I really liked it. Um, but I think, for me, a year and a half was enough, and I was ready to move on to do other things. I enjoyed it though.
Some comedians, and you've done acting, you've done improv, you've taught drama. So some comedians have this artistic mind that can handle 4 or 5 different projects at a time. I call them plate spinners, like on the old Ed Sullivan show. Do you have many projects going on at one time, or are you focused now on just stand up?
Well, when COVID happened and the stand-up world kind of slowed down tremendously, pretty much nothing, I continued with another project that I have going with two friends of mine. We have a blog. It's called Forbidden Bromance, where we write different little short stories, poems. We have an ongoing series called The Jewish Godmother, and we continued to write all through COVID. Uh, really working on the blog hard. And then we realized at some point we really just wanted to take the Jewish Godmother story, which was our most popular, to the next level. And we are actually trying to contact networks right now to see if we can get it into being a sitcom.
Oh, that's fabulous. Are you at liberty to say what the whole thought behind the Jewish godmother is, or do you keep that close to your vest?
No, we can talk about it. We are in the process of getting it copyrighted, so I feel pretty free to be able to speak about it. It is a concept that my friends and I came up with about 10 years ago. We started writing a play, and then eventually it went into a blog. But she's a middle-aged lady. She lives in Brooklyn, and she is basically like a little old lady mobster, and she's running this entire racket from the back of a Jewish deli. And and people come to her with their problems, and she solves them. And she she's quite a little spitfire. She gets herself into some situations, and she's really interesting. The characters got a lot of depth. We have supporting characters. We have several scripts. You can read all about it on our blog, forbiddenbromance.com, and follow the Jewish Godmother. And hopefully she will go to her next phase of being a sitcom.
That will be amazing. Oh my gosh. Forbiddenbromance.com.
Yep, that's
I
it.
have to I have to go and look at that tonight. And I'll be sure to add it to your post. I know you had it in your bio on as um an add on at the end, but I want to make sure to highlight that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Do you have any parting? I have to keep the time on these shorter. T-Mobile says it's the whole thing.
Okay.
Has to do with my pocketbook or something.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. So I'm hoping Alzheimer's will come very soon. Uh, so I was just wondering, as a funny person who sees the world differently, what observations that you've seen of people being really weird in the pandemic that are hysterical, or a funny way of coping from a comedic point of view for the rest of the pandemic. Do you have something that you want to say to people that will make them look at the pandemic, the rest of it, in a funny way?
Yeah, when the pandemic first started happening and people were like doing crazy stuff like hoarding toilet paper, I went to the store looking for toilet paper because, it was becoming scarce. And I started writing a few jokes about it. And I said, I really was looking at things in a whole different way. I started looking at everything like, is this something I can use in the toilet? And my friend has this cute little poodle. named Maddie, who actually I'm Maddie's godmother.
Ah,
I'm not the Jewish godmother, but I'm a dog's godmother. And I actually picked Maddie up one day and I said, "Hey, buddy, does poop stick to your fur?" Soft and fluffy. I thought maybe I could use him in the toilet. Wasn't very happy about that.
oh my gosh. So the Jewish godmother is not based on your life.
No, she's kind of the conglomeration of like a lot of older Jewish ladies that we knew growing up. You know, these are tough ladies, and they're smart, and they're just amazing. And she's basically the conglomeration of a bunch of Jewish women and maybe even our own grandmothers and just ladies that we knew growing up. And we patterned her after basically after their characters and their demeanor.
Lovely. So I was told that I was Jewish growing up, and 75% of me is Jewish. The 25, if you go parents and grandparents, there's four of them. Three of them were Jewish, but well, I don't know how to do this. Anyway,
I think you're doing it right. You got
but
it right.
the problem is that my mother was not considered Jewish, even though my mother's father was Jewish. So I feel Jewish, right? And I found out as a very late adult, you know, like in my 60s, that Jewish people don't think I'm Jewish because my mother wasn't. And I was like, oh, but I've suffered through so much and stuck up for so
Well, you know, part of being Jewish is having to suffer. So if you've suffered, I automatically consider you to be Jewish. That's it.
Thank you.
In my
Yes,
opinion, you're a Jew.
I'm a Jew.
Yeah.
I think that anybody that comes from a mixed family has the same kind of story, no matter what their background, coming to terms with it. So that'll be an interesting sitcom that'll come out of your strong writing. So I'll be looking forward to that news. If you get any good news, come back on here and promote it. Let me know.
I would love to.
And
Yeah, definitely.
anything that you think that my audience would like to know that you want promoted, let me know. Because now you are, I don't have a bell, you are a graduate of the Comic Spot. So you can come back and promote. Thanks for bearing with me on the interview. I think you're a delight to the comedy world, and welcome to it. And
Thank
go
you.
for everything you want.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you too. Caroline Brown, you guys. Follow her. And it's called Don't Tell Me. See if I can read my writing. ForbiddenBromance.com.
Forbidden Romance. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you lots.
Love you too.